Welcome to another episode of the Perth Fitfam podcast, where you get to hear from the best thought leaders and change makers from across the Perth fitness scene. I'm Brendan McCormack, and for episode 41, we're going to be catching up with my friend Tim Morrison, who is a shaman and a practicer of plant medicine. So in this podcast, we discuss all things ayahuasca, tripping to South America, how he became a shaman, whilst we're sipping on some ceremonial grade cacao. Now, it may be something that's quite new to you guys, or you may have heard of these things before, but I thought it was a great chance to hear from Tim directly and also share our experiences together. So it does start off a little bit slow as we get a bit of a backstory, but definitely towards the tail end of the podcast, you get to hear a lot more as we exchange our stories and the results that we've got out of practicing with plant medicines in the past. The Perth Fitfam podcast is brought to you by True Protein. True is unafraid to cut through the noise of an oversaturated market and break the mold to deliver authentic, all natural products with genuine health benefits and none of the fake stuff. They've bucked the trend for expensive, overhyped, bad-tasting protein powders and supplements packed with false promises to reinvent the marketplace and create a 100% natural, delicious, quality protein with no gimmicks, nothing artificial, and a completely transparent ingredient list. You can get True Protein online at trueprotein.com.au, and if you use the code PERFITFAM10, you'll also get an exclusive 10% discount. You can also pick up True Protein from over 120 retailers across Perth and Western Australia. That is trueprotein.com.au using the code PERFITFAM10. And that is all. Time to kick off the podcast, episode 41, with the shaman of plant medicines, Tim Morrison.
All right, can we set a little intention before we...
We can set an intention, yeah.
Before we start.
You're the man. Hold on, let me get this out of the way. There we go.
Just closing our eyes, just breathing deep into our belly. And just becoming present with our breath. Just bringing our intention to our mind's eye, and my intention is to come through with clarity, with presence, and to speak from the heart with passion, and to deliver my message of medicine to you both and to whoever's listening. What about you, Brendo?
I'm obviously not a professional at this. My intention is to have an awesome conversation, get some great insights in a really entertaining and inspiring way. We got this. All right, I got to ask, Cacao. So for those who are watching this, we're drinking some ceremonial grey cacao. So what does one benefit from ceremonial grey cacao?
Well, cacao in itself is a medicine of the heart. Mm-hmm. So she invites us to come back into that place, to our core essence of who we are. And in that process of coming back into our heart, we start to unlayer all that armor that we've placed upon ourselves. And that can be like emotional armor. So when we start to unlay that, emotions can arise. There can be tears, there can be frustration, there can be sexual energy, there can be a lot of clarity, receiving guidance. And the main difference between ceremonial grade cacao and cacao that you get from like Woolies or like a sub store or something like that is that it still contains the fat and the powder together. So from like the actual bean, when it's being processed, it goes through a fermentation process, and then it dries and it gets put into this kind of like a stone grinder to make into a paste, and it doesn't get separated, and it stays in this kind of this paste form, which is what you're drinking. But the real rawness of the ceremonial grey cacao comes from using native strains of that. So in Peru, there's the chuncho cacao, which has only been really identified over the last maybe 10, 15 years, and another one called the Criollo Cacao, which is in Mexico and Guatemala, also in Peru, but it's quite hard to find a pure native strain of Criollo because it's been genetically modified by so many farms due to just mass production from the Western world. So, but to get the pure strain of ceremonial grade cacao, like the farmers have got so much love and attention into their crops, and they're really connected to it.
Yep.
So a lot of the ceremonial grade cacao that you find will come from smaller farms, not mass production farms, and a lot of the farms will also be like wild grown farms, so not just planted in a row or anything like that. So
that's crazy. So it's very it's very micro, in a sense that they can't produce a lot of it at a time if there's not those systems, if it's still kept in its more natural form.
Yeah. So cacao will, like the Tuncha cacao, will just fruit once a year.
Yeah.
So like especially in Europe, like a lot of the production that goes over there, or the cacao that gets brought over there, they started to modify it so that it would fruit twice a year, so they would be able to receive more cacao beans and then produce more chocolate.
There you go. And we get to drink it now.
Yeah.
I just realised I didn't even get to introduce you. Ladies and gentlemen, episode 41. Tim Morrison, welcome to the party. We're drinking some cacao.
Yeah.
So
I'll quickly tell you about people about cacao. So one of the main compounds in it is called anandamide, which literally means like bliss chemical.
Yeah.
So it gives you those feelings of elation and euphoria when you're drinking it.
Yeah.
And so you have like a ceremonial grade cacao.
Yeah.
But then you also have like a ceremonial dose of the cacao, of the ceremonial grade cacao.
Okay.
So depending on what kind of journey or experience you want to go through, you can have, like the ceremonial dose of a cacao is 42 grams.
Okay.
But you can have a lower dose, so say like if there's activity involved, like yoga or like making love with cacao. So if you two want to jump up on that,
you're gonna get some cacao swells.
Have some hard open love making.
What a great way to start.
And for like meditation as well, and you can also take a small dose, like 15 grams of it before you go to sleep, and it will help to induce lucid dreaming or very, very vivid dreaming.
Yep.
And it's like it wakens that up, but it's also, like we see, like in shamanism, we see that like everything has a spirit. So you're drinking like a spirit, and that's what's awakening up. You're communing with that spirit. You're creating like a sacred contract between yourself and that spirit. So you're inviting the spirit of cacao to come into your being. So there's definitely like a pharmacological compounds that you're like experiencing those feelings and side effects of drinking cacao. But there's also the energetic and the spiritual and the shamanic side of drinking it as well. So we've been working with it for a couple of years now, and we've received like amazing feedback from people that come sit in ceremony for what they are releasing, what they're receiving, and how their lives are shifting personally and relationally for themselves, and also through their work too. And we've also been blessed to go to a number of different ceremonial grade cacao farms, like in Peru, and then recently in Hawaii. We went to one in Hawaii, which is really cool to see too. So, but we went with some of our friends. They've got a company called Fly Cacao, and we were in Peru with them. And we went to the farms where they were getting the cacao from, and it was a really, really cool experience. And to meet the farmers that were doing it. And the crazy thing was, man, is that these farmers, they'd never met buyers before. There's always been through a second party. Yep. And it was like a really emotional experience for themselves and for us as well, to have that in-person contact. Like they had never received that before.
Do they live in like pretty poor sort of situations because they can't produce mass? Like it's
well, it's a third world country, but and that's one of the other things as well, is that with some of the, I guess like Cadbury and those kind of chocolate companies, like they just mass produce and they pay like a really short wage to them, so they're not really receiving that much money. Okay. But like our friends at Fly Cacao, they pay like a higher than fair fair trade for the cacao, to make sure that they're being looked after, and they have someone on the floor over there to make sure that the money is being used for the right things. Like their company is a non-for-profit organisation.
Okay.
So they're doing it to look after the farmers and to keep the medicine alive in that way.
That's cool.
And to give back rather than to take.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. I didn't know. I've seen you post about their stuff. I didn't know they were non-for-profit. So we're going to talk a bit about plant medicines, but people that are listening to this, some of them are going to know about plant medicines. They might have seen people talking about different experiences within the Amazon. I think like a lot of keynote people are talking about it these days, and it's kind of making its way through a bit more attention to people that wouldn't normally see it. So what is a plant medicine?
Well, I think when most people say plant medicine, they automatically think of like psychedelics. So like entheogens like ayahuasca, San Pedro, peyote, marijuana. But plant medicine, when you come to the crux of it, and people have been doing it for a long time, it's all herbs and all different plants that are actually plant medicine. And the way they talk about medicine, and it's changing what your relationship to the word medicine is, because most people in the West, they see medicine as saying that you go to the doctor to get.
Yeah.
But they see that these plants have medicine. They have their own ability to heal different ailments on a holistic level. So mentally, emotionally, spiritually, energetically, physically, and plant medicine can like incorporate all of that as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a pretty broad thing. I think like when I say it, I would probably think along the lines of ayahuasca and things like that as well. And I'm going to ask you about your journey through Peru as well. You know what's coming. But before we get into that, tell us about your journey prior to doing what you do now. Like what brought you here?
So yeah, like I fought in Muay Thai for about 7 years, I think it was. So I won the 63.5 kilo state title, WMC state title, and then won I think it was 62.1 or 61.2 kilo WKN Australian title, and had the opportunity to fight in Russia at St. Petersburg with the World Championships for the Australian team over there and in Thailand and Bangkok. And so like my dream then was that I was to become a world champion fighter. That was my vision, my goal, and I was gonna have my own stable of fighters. I was gonna train up once I'd retired and train them up to be fighters themselves. And that was like my everything. That was like just slept, ate, shat, everything for fighting. That was just my thing.
Yep.
And one day I had woken up and I had all this pain in my neck. I was in Bangkok. I'd just come from Russia to Bangkok, and I was training fight prep for another fight in Australia. And I woke up one day and I was in a lot of pain, and I was trying to stretch out, and all of a sudden, like the whole left side of my body was just like shaking, and then all of a sudden I just couldn't move anymore. And what happened was that 3 discs had popped out of my neck, and my C4, 5, 5, 6, and 6, 7, and my 6, 7 had come out and hit my spinal cord, and it jammed my C7 nerve, so it got stuck in the foramen and just jammed that. So I lost all the feeling down my left arm and my thumb, first and second finger.
Yep.
So we waited for about 5 weeks and had some like bit of chiro, a bit of massage to see if we could allow the disc to kind of come off the spinal cord and the nerve, but it just wouldn't budge.
So you're in pain for this 5 to 6 weeks? Like you can't move or anything?
Yeah, I was fucked. Yeah,
okay.
I wasn't good, man.
Yep.
And then ended up having to get surgery, and the surgery fixed my left arm. Mm-hmm. But what it done was it created nerve pain through my whole back, through the upper part of my back.
Yep.
From the surgery. So after that, like I was like so determined to get back into fighting. I wanted to get back into training and all that. I started doing it. Then I was just still getting this burning sensation. It started getting more and more intense, and then ended up being like I just can't do it. But that neck injury sent me into like a really downward spiral. I became like really severely depressed. And I was really good at hiding my depression. Didn't really know how to deal with the things that I was going through. I didn't want to open up about it. I thought I'd be seen as being weak, being a pussy and all that kind of stuff. I didn't want to express how I was kind of feeling. But then when I was like close within my family, like I'd break down and I was so deeply hurt. And I went through a massive like loss of identity because like I had labeled myself as Tim the fighter. Like when I was fighting, like my fight name was MC, so I was Tim MC. MC just stood for like mad rhymes of blunt. I was going to say that on here.
So you were a badass, hey?
Yeah, it's like I just love to train hard, fight hard, party hard, just done everything full steam, man. Just full into it.
Yeah.
So I had this massive loss of identity. I was like, well, who am I? Like, if I can't be this person, then like when I started like unpacking all this stuff later on, like a big part of me fighting was a protection because I was so deeply bullied when I was in primary school, man.
Okay.
And so when I came into high school, I was like, didn't want anyone to mess with me, so I started creating this persona of this like kind of crazier person, and then it got into fighting, wanting to like channel this anger that I was feeling. I had a few things that happened when I was younger that really impacted me. Like I was abused a couple of times when I was younger, a little bit when I was older as well, like sexually, and then physically and mentally and emotionally abused when I was like in primary school. And I experienced a lot of death as well when I was younger. I just didn't know how to, deal with all these kinds of stuff. And this just impact, because it was so deeply suppressed, man, it just came out in these ways, So like when the neck injury was just a life-changing experience on so many different levels.
Yep.
And then the Western medical system really failed me with my neck.
Yeah.
Like I saw so many different specialists to help with my pain, my physical pain. And it got to the point where they was like, we can't help you anymore.
And you still had physical pain at this stage?
Yeah, physical pain.
Yeah. How many years was that?
Well, I still have it now.
Yeah. Because you were saying you can't type for long periods of time now.
Yeah.
And like it stops you from training or doing any form of fitness, really.
Yeah. So what happened was during this period of getting my body back into alignment, I was seeing this guy called Stephen Hooper, who is
Body Genius.
Yeah, Body Genius, but they've just closed Body Genius, and he's at a new place now called Evolving Superhuman, I think it's called.
Okay.
Steve, if you listen to this, I'm sorry, man.
Steve, we're going to find out. We're going to let people know.
Because, man, he's an absolute genius, man. He, like, how much he got my body back into alignment was phenomenal, man. Like, his knowledge, and he would go, like, above and beyond. There was times when I couldn't see specialists, so he put his name on the line to get me to see specialists, and
awesome.
Like he was like using his name to, get me into places, and he just man, how much, like, I can't think enough how much he actually helped me. And there was times, man, where he was like dry needling me, and like just tears would be coming out of me, man, and I'd break down so many times in his treatment room, and so yeah, I ended up actually being able to train again, doing weights, and I started training twice a day, and I was able to do most movements, like no complex movements, couldn't do any cleans or anything like that, because that would just aggravate my neck and the burning sensations. But then I went to Peru for this journey, and when I'd come back, that's when I re-injured my neck again.
So when you went to Peru for a journey, how did you come about it? Like what made you go to Peru?
Man, because I was thinking of how I could kill myself. Like I was a lot of suicidal thoughts, and I just always wanted to drive into oncoming traffic, man. And Sammy, she was always in the passenger seat, so because I never wanted to hurt her, she was my saving grace.
Yeah.
And I started becoming like really self-abusive and emotionally abusive to her, and I got to a place I was like, man, I can't be like this anymore. And I'd heard about ayahuasca maybe like 3 years prior, maybe 2 years prior, I can't remember, like a few years before that. And I remember like this guy had told me I was working on site and he said he just come back from an ayahuasca trip. As soon as he said ayahuasca, I was just like, whoa. I was like, what the fuck is that? That sounds cool, man. And I was just like researching. I was just like infatuated by it.
Yeah.
So then when I was like in this state, man, I was like, bro, I just got to do something to get me out of this. And I didn't want to go speak to a psychologist. I didn't want to take any medication for it. Like I knew that wasn't the path for me. But I knew this thing that I'd heard of called ayahuasca was going to be my thing, my gateway that was going to help me release. I'd heard about all the deep somatic releasing you could have with it and how it could help cure depression and all this kind of stuff. So I was like, I need to do that.
So tell us about your journey over there. Have you done any psychedelics prior to this?
So I'd smoked weed. The funny thing is, man, is that like I never wanted to do mushrooms when I was young because I always thought I was going to go crazy.
Yeah.
And then so I just chose to do, the mother of all psychedelics instead. So I'd gone over not having any kind of psychedelic experience, and my old man said to me, he was like, I'm going to come with you because I want to make sure that you don't like lose your shit in the jungle. And then he started researching what it was about.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, I think I need to do it as well. So
Did you go with your dad?
Yeah. So we ended up going together.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was cool, man. So we healed so much in our relationship, man. But we've always, we're close and stuff. And he was so supportive through like my fighting career. Like he would, flew over to Thailand to come watch me fight, and that him and mum would fly over east when I was fighting, and but it just brought it to a whole new level of our relationship being there.
Yep.
So yeah, we got our passports, got our stuff, and found a retreat, and which is really interesting. This retreat that we'd found was this retreat that this guy told me about like a couple of years back, and I was trying to remember what he told me, but I couldn't find it. And then like a week before I left there, I found an old phone. I was like, I should just take an old phone over.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'll scroll through, and I found this guy's message, and he told me about it was like the same retreat center that we're going to, and I was like, man, it's like, everything's like in alignment to go there. Yes, we went there. Perfect. And man, it was crazy, man. It was just yes, we sat 8 times in a month. So it was like every...
So you stayed there for a month, your first trip?
Yeah, well, the first trip in Peru, I was there for 2.5 months.
Okay.
So I went into this retreat center for a month.
Okay.
With my dad, yeah.
Okay.
So then, we had our first trip and in there, and that was, really deeply healing, man. And we worked through a lot of stuff and purged out a heap of shit and in all levels. Yeah. And me and my dad had a really deeply healing experience in that. And it wasn't in an actual ayahuasca ceremony, but they had these like integration kind of sessions and introspective classes in between the ceremonies to help the inner journey. And one of them was this like dyad practice where there's like 2 people and you're asking like the same question over and over again, and the reply gets deeper and deeper. But this question was, what is the love that you most long for? And I just kept thinking that the love that I most long for is my own self-love. And at the end of it, I was like, had all this like frustration and anger, and I didn't want to share. I was just, man, like, fuck this is bullshit, blah, blah, blah. And the workshop facilitators said, hey, like, just stay back, let's have a chat. And then my dad stayed back, and then we went into it deeper. I mean, my dad like locked eyes, and we like eye gaze, and I couldn't remember the last time that I actually looked my dad in the eyes. And even that in itself, I was like, man, like, that was so healing. But we started asking the same question, and I realized in that moment the love that I most longed for was the love from my dad. But I realized my dad never not loved me. Does that make sense? He always loved me. I just didn't let his love in.
Sure.
Like I was blocking his love from coming in. And he just said to me, like, I love you as you are. And I just curled up in a little ball and I cried my eyes out, and he just held me and I felt like a little boy in my dad's arms, and just healed some deep shit, man.
Sorry, keep going.
Like that was like one of the pivotal things in the actual trip for me, was that in itself.
So like For someone that's never done ayahuasca or never experienced it, just so we can paint a bit of a picture before we move on, because hearing things like integration, even psychedelic. What's the process of a ceremony? So for someone that's never been to or seen an ayahuasca ceremony, how would you describe it? Like as far as what it looks like and the process of being there?
So ayahuasca is generally the combination of two different plants. One is the chacuna leaf, which holds the DMT in it. So DMT is dimethyltryptamine, which is like known as the God molecule, that we release it when we sleep, when we die, when we're born. And we actually produce it in our lungs as well. So you can access these states through breath work. But so it's mixed between the chacuna leaf and the capi vine. And the capi vine has the maui in it, which allows your guts to absorb the DMT. Which is why there's lots of different things that hold DMT, but we just don't have the enzymes to break it down. So that's brewed down over 24 hours, or between 12 to 24, depending on who's making it and how thick they want to make it. So it's brewed into this thick sludge, and so the ceremony will begin. So I've sat with quite a few different shamans now from different lineages, but we were sitting with the Shipibo Indians, and they're really known for being probably dare say the masters of their craft with ayahuasca. And so generally they'll open up the space with a prayer, and then it really depends on who you sit with, but they generally just open it up with a prayer, and then you just go up person by person, and the shaman will tune into you, and they'll generally have a shot glass, and they'll just pour in the ayahuasca into this shot glass. So generally they'll give first timers a really small dose to kind of see how they respond to the medicine. So this is not a one-time thing. It's creating a relationship with it as well. So many Westerners want the big explosiveness, but it's really creating that relationship with it. So sometimes having a smaller dose to welcome her into your being is what's needed. So then you come back, and then you will set your intention with the ceremony for what you're wanting to receive out of the ceremony. And then you will drink your cup of fire, and it is pungent, man. It is not the nicest tasting thing, and you get to a point if you're in the jungle for a while and you're watching everyone drink, you get within a couple of weeks, man, you're watching people drink and you just shut up from just seeing the taste. But you'll drink it and you head back to your mat, and it can everyone's different, man. It's different depending on the potency and of the ayahuasca and your own internal makeup and the shaman that's there as well, of how quickly the experience will come on. They generally say between 30 to 60 minutes there it'll come on, man. But I've drunk and it's hit me with 10 minutes.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I've never sat in Australia. I've only sat with indigenous shamans.
Yes.
In Peru and in Brazil, but they'll sing what's called an Icaros, which is songs of the plants or from the plants. They're healing songs, which they learn from their own apprenticeship, their own training, and also doing diets with other plants and trees. So they're receiving the knowledge and the wisdom, and they're creating their own sacred contract with different master trees and plants, which will give them different powers and strengths. So they believe that once they do a diet, that tree or plant will root into their own consciousness and become some sort of an ally. So when the ceremony starts, everyone's drunk, you're just kind of laying down, or some people are sitting up and meditating. They also have mapacho, which is jungle tobacco.
Harpe?
Nah, so harpe is it's made from the same kind of tobacco, which is rustica, Nicotina rustica, and that's mixed with dried tree ash and dried plants. Mapacho is just the straight tobacco, and that's
that they smoke.
Yeah, that is. It's
okay,
So the stuff I blew on you when you were come on Cambo that.
Yep, gotcha.
That time. So then you were like, you might use a mapacho to ground and just to blow it over to your body for protection and just to be in you. And that was like when they start to feel the medicine, they will start to sing the Icaros, and it would just start to journey. And like, I've had some where I've just like blasted straight off. I've had some where it's come on really, really slowly. And yeah, every ceremony is completely different.
Yeah. That's the thing I wanted to point out, is it's not the same sort of feeling every time. It's very quite different, right?
Yeah. Like I generally get the same kind of physical sensations in my body as it's coming on. Like I'll feel like almost like a vine through my face, kind of like going like this, and like little tingling bits and pieces. And then sometimes you feel like your face all of a sudden goes upside down, and you're like, oh yeah, it's definitely kind of kicking in. But the actual journey in itself is completely different, man. Yeah. So the big thing with it is that, like, ayahuasca is there to teach you, and it heals you as well. So it's showing you aspects of your life that you need to work on. Like, she's never going to heal you 110% and then, okay, off you go, you're fine. Like, she's showing you what you need to do as well. So it's always like it's a relationship. It's never like a one-sided relationship. Yeah. So she's showing you what you need to work on, what you might need to let go of, what you might need to bring more into your life. And you might have like realizations, and there's all these different like things happening in your brain as well. So there's a lot of actual healing happening in the ceremony as well. Yeah. But she's also showing you what you need to work on as well when you're outside of the ceremony too. And
it's like, so the things that you spoke about, like why you were so angry, why you were putting this persona when you were younger, it's that sort of stuff that made you do that is so deep-seated in your subconscious that if you haven't experienced something like one of these ceremonies, it's very hard. Like, it takes years of therapy to even come to a conclusion. Whereas something like this, you get shown like straight away. It's like the way that your brain wires or thinks stuff out. And like you said, it's such a hard thing to explain to someone that's never done it. Yeah. But you like almost instantly get healed because you become aware, or you forgive yourself, or something happens.
So they say it's like one ceremony is like 20 years of psychotherapy.
Massive. I remember I did a ceremony, and this actually wasn't ayahuasca, but I always had like a bit of an alcohol issue. And I never saw myself as a drinker, and I couldn't understand it, and I would always try and stop. But there was always this crutch there, where I always explain it to people, where if I ever bought a bottle of wine with the intention of drinking a glass, I'd smash a bottle. I couldn't stop myself.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, and it was always behind closed doors. It wasn't, it wasn't very public. And there's other stuff prior to that. And I remember one of my journeys, one of my experiences, it got shown to me that that was a way that I dealt with a traumatic experience with my life, which I never shared, which I never got healed. And when I saw so clearly why I did it and the behavior behind it, and I was able to forgive myself because I didn't have shame or guilt about it. It was just like, you dealt with this on your own, and that was your way. Yeah. And I was able to then go and close off that issue with the people that I was with, and it was like I was healed straight away, and like never had an urge to do it again. Man, that's one thing. That's one thing out of many things, how it's changed my life.
Man, I feel you, man. Like I was the same, man. Like I definitely had a problem with drugs and alcohol, and after coming back from Peru the first time, man, I had no desire at all. Like, it wasn't even in my consciousness, man, to even want to. It was never like, oh, go have a drink or anything like that. It was like never again, man. It was like not even my awareness. It was crazy, bro. Yeah. And one thing that like I learned from that first trip in that month, man, was that like we can think that we've consciously let go and forgiven someone or let go of something, and it's out of our like awareness. We're like, yeah, I've forgiven that person, or we might think that we've let go of like a something that's traumatic or hurt us, whatever,
death or something.
Yeah, we're like, oh yeah, we've dealt with that. Yeah, but fucking, I haven't, man. It's like in your physical body. It's like in your nervous system, in your in your muscles, in your tendons.
Yeah.
And I was like, all this stuff that I was just like, thought that I'd let go of was coming up, and my body was just like shaking, just It's just all like shaking it out, man. And like all mammals, man, have this innate ability to, shake, and whenever they get whether they're in fear or something traumatic happens, like a gazelle gets away from a cheetah, first thing it does is it shakes its whole body, or you step on a dog's paw by accident and it just shakes its paw off. So every mammal has this, but humans just stop shaking, man.
Yeah, that's it's interesting, but it's true, it's crazy, and it's hard to explain that to someone, and for someone to believe that's how powerful it is. And that's how life-changing.
Yeah.
It is. And the thing also I want to point out is whenever we're talking about a plant medicine, especially because the key one's ayahuasca, but that's what people talk about. It's not a recreational drug.
Oh, no, man.
And that's one thing which you've got to make clear.
Yeah.
You're going in with an intention, with a purpose. There's always a guide there. It's a medicine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be with someone that you trust, that can hold you through the process, and that has years and years of experience in working with it and knowing what to do when, shit goes south and it becomes a really, really hard journey.
Yeah.
Have someone that knows how to journey you through that.
Yeah. That
has enough experience in that realm.
So explain a hard journey, because these I wouldn't say not pleasant, but they're a challenging experience, because you're bringing up stuff so deep-seated that a lot of the times you weren't aware consciously that was there. And it can be quite an emotional experience to go through. Yeah,
man. So in the lead up to going to my first trip, I was like, I felt so stuffed up internally, mentally, emotionally. I was like, physically, I was like, man, I need to drink as much ayahuasca as I can when I go to Peru, because I don't know when I'm going to be going back.
Yeah.
So I'd organise this month with my dad, and then a week after that, I'd organise another little trip at this other place. Mm-hmm. So we left this one retreat centre, and then we went into the jungle for a bit and done this survival tour, which was crazy, man. Almost died and stuff. It was legit survival, man. It was crazy, bro. And we got lost in the jungle and stuff. It was hallucinating in the jungle, man. It was wild, man. Anyways, you come out, got into this next place, and it was my second ceremony in there, and they had a couple of different plants in this mixture. It was a really, really strong brew, and it just blew me open, man. And this plant that I'd so part of the Shipibo culture is plants that you can't ingest. They'll have this thing called like a vapor. So they'll have this hot pot, boiling hot pot, and they have all the trees and the plants in there, and then you'll stick a towel over you and you just kind of absorb it. It's like a sauna almost, but you just, or like a steam room, kind of receiving all that in. And one of the plants that was in that's a really, really strong plant, but it's my first meeting with it or hearing about it was that you could make people go crazy and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. But in the second ceremony, the spirit of this plant had come in.
Okay.
And I went blind and I couldn't see anything. All I could see was just this straight green. And then the plant's name just was showing itself in front of me. And then it was telling me I was going crazy. And then I started thinking I was going psychotic in this.
Yeah.
And it was wild, man. It was so crazy. And man, I can't even. It's hard to even experience what it was coming up. But it was a lot of intense visuals and a lot of bodily sensations that just was making me want to kind of shut down. And then I had to ask for help, and that was so hard for me, asking for help.
Yeah.
And one of the facilitators just came and sat by my side the whole time, held my hand and just coached me through it, just taught me how to come back into my breath. Mm-hmm. Through this process, and to breathe and to surrender into it and to see what was there. And as I got through this really hard part, it was just opened up into this kind of bliss experience, man, and received a lot from that. So then after that, I had one more ceremony at the end of that week, and then I was a bit shaken up, so I didn't drink for about a week and a bit. And then I went into Cusco, and I linked up with some mates that I met earlier, and decided I was going to do like one more Aya journey. And like no one there spoke any English. It was all Spanish. Like the guy wasn't. This is probably the only non-Indigenous guy that I've drunk with, and. Like I drank it. I didn't drink like it wasn't a very big cup, so I wasn't expecting much to happen. And I got blasted really, really hard, man. And I went into this loop, and all I can remember was like this like electric kind of loop that was just going in circles and circles, faster and faster. And it was so scary, so frightening. It was so traumatizing. And my mate that I went there with, he just sat by my side and held my hand the whole time. But my whole body was flattening, man. My body was like smashing up against this stone wall that was sitting in this like stone maloka. And I couldn't actually ask for help because I couldn't speak. And then what made it worse was this lady had come up and asked me to like not be so loud. I didn't realize what she was saying. My mate told me the next day because he could speak Spanish.
Okay.
Yeah. And he was on his own journey, but he was just like holding my hand through this. And then as that kind of calmed down, man, but that experience gave me like some PTSD like later on. It took me like I had to do this other inner work to help heal through that.
Yeah, sure.
So like I've experienced like deep healing with iron plant medicine, but I've also experienced like some traumatic stuff that because I wasn't guided through in the right ways, it had negatively affected me in that.
Yeah, sure.
But you know, there's this saying that I always gives you what you need, and right then and there, I probably didn't think that I needed that. But what they had done is opened up this veil for my path to go a completely different direction.
Well, that's what I want to talk about. Is like then what sent you on that direction?
Man, so yeah, like 2 days before that, we had a Wachuma journey, which is San Pedro. So it's a mescaline. So it's cactus of light, man. So it illuminates everything that is within, and it's like a 12-hour journey. So it's drunk during the day, and it's, man, very, very grounding, very heart-opening, very illuminating. Man, it can work through a lot of stuff in that ceremony. So 2 days before, done that, and then done the Aya. And then a couple of buddies, they were like, we in PSAC, and he's like, bro, we got this Wachumero, which is a Wachuma shaman. He's like, he's a mountain man. He wants to go take us in the mountains and drink Wachuma. Let's do it. So it was just me and two of my mates and this mountain man, and we were just drinking this medicine in the mountains and connecting to the energy of the Apus, which is like the mountain gods. And I was sitting there with a mapacho, and the spirit of Mapacho started talking to me and was like, you need to, sing a song. I give you a song, and I want you to sing that song into this, then smoke me, and then burn me into your hand, and then we'll go. And so I'd done that. And then as soon as I put the ash into my hand, I shot out of my body, and I went up into the spirit realm. Yeah. And up there, it was like the most pleasant, most beautiful. Everything was like, there was like no right or wrong. It's just everything was just what is. And there was this group of like spirits up there, and they were like, this is where you belong. Like we're your family. Like you need to stay with us. And I was looking down, and I was like, I need to go back to my people. And I was like, these is ground dwellers. I got to go back to the ground dwellers. And they were like, oh, if you want to go back, then you're going to become the bridge between the worlds. Yeah. And I was like, okay, sweet. Let's do it. And I went back down, and then I started seeing spirits, started hearing voices, started seeing energy, just was blown open into the unseen kind of world. And it wasn't too intense at that point, but it just started unraveling in that
planting
way.
That seed. And
then a couple weeks after I got back, something triggered it. And I went into this process, like it's like this shamanic awakening, where, this energy would like shoot into my body, and it would shoot up my spine, and I would go poof out of my head. And it was like, the only way when I was trying to describe it to people was like this state of like a panic attack, where that energy of the anxiety comes in, but there was just this other component in it, man. And so this this would have like, so, and I'd be in this altered state of consciousness, and it would go from like anywhere from like maybe 1 or 2 hours up to like 8 hours, and like I couldn't leave the house for so long, man. And like we were like, sometimes like when we would go out, I would see things like come out of people. And there's a few times when we were driving, and my spirit would jump out of my body into the oncoming car. I would look the opposite way, then I'd come back into my body, and I was freaking the fuck out. I thought I was going crazy, man.
Yeah.
Like I was like, man, this is not, like, this is fucked. This is not good. Like I've done some damage from the jungle. I've gone a bit too hard.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm going to come back from this. And it was that in itself was like quite traumatic, because like I didn't understand what was happening to my body, but I was really blessed to have my mum, who's an incredible healer, and she went through something similar around the same age, and which she started opening more up to me about, because I didn't really understand a lot of her journey of how she got into what she was doing until like I went through what I went through in this period. And there was times, man, when I wanted to go to like a psych ward, and I would have been labelled as like schizophrenic, or I don't know, whatever, man. I'm not going to label myself, but there was just this, that's what the Western world would have said. And my mum was just like, nah, you were just seeing the unseen and you're hearing the unheard. And she's like, surrender and asked to be shown how to work through with this. And I had to go through this full process of learning how to ground myself and how to like anchor myself back into my body. Man, I was like having dreams where it was like I'd dream, and then inside that dream I'd go into another dream, and inside that second dream I'd be communing with spirits, and then they were like teaching me different like healing things and teach me about energy and stuff. And then I'd like wake up and I'd still be in a dream, then I'd wake up again, I'd be like, holy fuck, like that is crazy.
Yeah.
And so that really blew it up. But like in this process, I was just like, I hadn't ever heard about a Kundalini awakening, and hadn't ever heard about a shamanic initiation or shamanic awakening. And through this process, I was like, fuck, this is like too much. Like, I just want to be normal. So I started doing like shit just to really numb myself out. And I was like, and then one day I was like, I'm just going to go to the gym and do some weights.
Yeah.
And I went to the gym. Next day I wake up, couldn't move my neck. I was like, something had happened during that process of going into the gym, but I hadn't done anything that was too heavy.
Yeah.
Like I was just going back. I wasn't going crazy. I was like, I just want to be normal. I'm going to go, do some seated rows, do some bench press, and maybe some lunges and some squats.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, it was just like spirit, universe, God, whatever you want to call it, was just like you were not listening to what you're meant to be doing. And it was just like, boom, it's another Mack truck. And then from there, my forearm started seizing up.
Okay.
And it was like, they were so bad, man. I couldn't like carry washing. I couldn't do the dishes. It was real bad, man. And then, a couple of my mates were like, bro, let's go to Bali. You're having a pretty rough time. Let's go to Bali and we'll shout you a trip. And so we went to Bali. While we were over there, the volcano erupted. So we got stuck there for like 3 weeks, man. And while we're over there though, I fell down some rocks, and then I busted my knee, my hip, and then I popped another disc out in my lower back. So then I had pain from my neck all the way down my right leg and into my left hip and my forearm. So then I became riddled with pain.
Yep.
And then a few months after that, I found out my body just felt like it was attacking itself. And I was like, this doesn't feel right. And I went to the doctor. So I was like, I feel like my thyroid isn't right. Can I get a test? Test comes back. She's like, you got Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune disease of the thyroid. It's your immune system is attacking your thyroid.
Yeah.
And it was just like, went through this process of my whole body being ripped apart and then being put back together. And that's when I started learning about this thing what they call like the shamanic illness, of when like you start to waking up within your own shamanic abilities, spirit will rip you apart, bring in illnesses to test your own fortitude, to see if you can hold a greater spirit. And these things kept telling me, you're being ripped apart so you can hold a greater amount. And then over like this year process of like figuring all this stuff out, my body structure started shifting and changing. Like my chest got like thicker, my shoulders got wider. It's like my actual physical structure started changing as well. And so through this process, man, I hadn't heard about like that Kundalini stuff, and I was like, man, I need to understand like what is going on with my body. Like I didn't want to just take like something and just be like, oh, that's what it is, and just become a victim to it. I was like, how can I get through what I'm going through? And then I started like, you know, learning about Tantra, learning about Kundalini, learning about Shamanism and different things. I was meeting different mentors, different teachers, going to different workshops and courses, and different healing modalities as well. So like the Western medical system had failed me in that instance with my neck, so it really pushed me down to find different avenues of like emotional release, of like energy work to help change those internal systems. But in saying that, like the Western medical system, I feel is good for getting tests and stuff like that, but if you wanted to really heal a disease, there's, you know, other approaches that for myself worked better. Yeah. So that's what like really put me onto this path, man, was I got so bad, man, at this one point, and my mum just kept telling me that I had to surrender. Keep surrendering. And I was like, fuck's sake, like how many times do you have to say I surrender? And she's like, you like if it hasn't happened yet, you know, obviously not surrendering. And it's just like, you just don't want to hear that. And I was like, I got to this point of this like deep surrender, and I said to Spirit, if you teach me to get through what I'm going through, then I will spread my message with the world. And it was just like, and it was just like person after person, thing after thing. It's just snowball effect of like, all right, he's listening.
So now you do, obviously you do a lot of ceremonies and workshops locally and also over East now. And I've seen you grow from like when you first came back from one of your journeys and you started doing the shaman's breath workshops, ceremonies. And I think I should call them ceremonies, not workshops, not seminars. And obviously the Cacao, and I've seen you grown so much. So what was your first ceremony? Like, when did you go, this is what I'm going to do, and you put yourself out to do it?
Oh man, so it was a sound healing. So my mum is an amazing sound healer. She's very, very shamanic herself. And so she became like a mentor to me. She just pulled her mum energy out, and she was like strict as fuck with me, man.
Oh, really?
She was just like, you know, you're not ready to do that yet. You're like, you got to be able to do this first. If you can't do that, then you can't do this kind of thing. She's like, there's like a sacred order of like how things need to, you know, you need to be fit of service before you're fit for service. Yeah, I said that right. So I started, like my first one was like doing like sound healing ceremonies for people, and then then after that came the Cacao. Like me and my mate Tal, we'd run a couple of Tantra workshops, and one of the Tantra so the way the Cacao had come in, so in the one of the Pedro journeys, and also through awakening through Aya, I was shown this ceremony of incorporating this sound into ceremony and this journey, and to bring it into more like, I don't know, people that aren't so spiritual, bring it into people that are like might not be open to it.
So people, I would say for people that are listening, probably people like me, like 100%.
Yeah.
Is and I ask a lot of stupid questions. So I've been to a few of your ceremonies, and if I don't get it, I just like ask a question, and they might be really stupid questions, but I just try and understand it. So like, I guess you have that intellectual side of it, or someone that comes from a different side of the world, who has heard about ayahuasca, who has heard about plant medicine, and then they've started to journey towards their own journey.
Yeah. First, there's no stupid questions. It's the questions that you don't ask is what's stupid. So always ask. I think everyone should always ask questions, and always, you know, make your own, receive your own wisdom from asking you questions, and make your own ideas up. Your own concepts from that. So I was at someone else's Cacao ceremony, and the spirit of Cacao had come into my body, and she was like, now's the time for you to offer me into ceremony. And she's like, I want you to journey me. I want you to take people on journeys with me into ceremony, and I'll guide you on exactly how I want you to do it. And I was like, sweet. So she was just like working with sound healing, like sacred sounds, with breath work, meditation, and you'll create like the ceremony from that. Mm-hmm. And so the first time I'd done that was at our this workshop me and Tal were running. I was like, bro, I got this idea. We can finish the workshop off by bringing everyone back into that heart space with this ceremony. And he's like, let's do it. And it was just so well received. And I was like, awesome, let's do it again. And so I just put it out there, man. And we started off with like, I don't know, like maybe 15, 20 people at like a smaller yoga studio. And then it just got so much momentum, man. And just kept growing and growing. And then we were like filling it out. So then had to find another studio. And that just kept filling out. It just became bigger and more like in depth, man. Like when I look back at my first ever setup, like I had a vision of what I wanted to look like, but I knew I didn't have that yet, but I just had to get it out. I wasn't going to sit and just wait. So I was like, I didn't think I even had, I think the first one, I didn't even have a mic, man. Or a looper or anything. I just had all the sound acoustic. And then I had my mum's, this speaker, her speakers, which had like a bit of a sub. She's like these cool tweeters with this sub. And I attached that to a laptop. And I was using like GarageBand to play like, I was using the keyboard on GarageBand to play like some of the synths and like keys and stuff to like journey. I was like DJing and playing at the same time.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I had this like really such a basic setup, man. Yeah. And then one of my mates lent me her looper for a while, and just grew from there. And then it's this amazing setup now, and so she just I based all my decisions on what the spirit of Cacao wanted me to. Yeah. And it's interesting when I say that to people, because, I got to a point where I was like, man, people are going to think I'm fucking crazy with some of the shit that I say. And I was like the neck injury, the thyroid, is all about communication, how you speak, and also receiving communication. I was just like, fuck it. Like, I don't want to be sick anymore. Yeah. I don't want to have this pain. I'm just going to say what's true to me. Yeah. And if people don't resonate, they don't resonate. And when I started speaking like that, people just like absorbed it up, and it actually attracted more people than what I ever thought was possible. And I was like, I tell people, like, this is a gift from Cacao. She's asked me to present it this way and to create a ceremony this way. And so and then we're at like this beautiful studio called Yab Yum for like just over a year, man. And we had like 45 every month, and we'd always have like a wait list. And then at the start of the year, like we had a couple of our mates, one of my mates, Anne-Marie, her and George opened up this studio called the Northside Hub in Wangara. Mm-hmm. And she's like Timmy, she's like, I would love for you to open our studio with one of your ceremonies. She's like, I think we could fit like 70, 80 people in here. And I was like, what the fuck? I was like, yes, let's do it. And because before that, I was like, couldn't find a big enough space to allow Cacao to expand. There was just nowhere that, like, I tried one place, and then there was like no energy around it. And I was like, whoa, that's not right. And then when this came, it just like doubled in size. And so since the start of the year, it's like, I think we have like 75 people every month.
That's incredible.
Come through, yeah. And we just started taking it over east to Melbourne a couple of months ago. Melbourne next week, or this weekend, sorry. Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Like, you've been killing it. It's been awesome to watch. So I got a couple of things to finish up on. So with I guess your journeys with plant medicine, and none specific, like cacao, ayahuasca, whatever. What's an example of something profound to you that stands out, as far as one thing that you've received, which is something that will always stand out to you?
From working with medicine? Or?
Yeah.
I would say it's like my purpose, what I'm here to do. Yeah. Yeah. And I received the same message from working with Mapacho, Hape, Cambo, Ayahuasca, and Wachuma. Also the same thing to me.
Yeah.
And that's probably the most profound. Yeah.
It's quite amazing to get that such clear sense of clarity.
Yeah, I think they'll decide, why aren't you listening?
Yeah.
Just do it.
And how has your experiences changed or shaped who you are as a person? And I don't mean what you do, but I mean who you are.
Man, it's opened me up to heal so much suppressed stuff that was inside of me that I didn't actually know was there. Like the awareness that I have around my own actions, creates more compassion.
Yeah.
All this inner work, it calls out like the brave in people to do it, calls in that warrior energy when you do that internal work. But yeah, I feel like I'm not the same person I was before, and I can't even really remember exactly what I was like. It's just been such a deep shift on like a cellular level. But like I am so fulfilled with what I do and who I am now. And it's like the more you understand about yourself, the more like the less you're seeking external validation. That you become so whole within yourself. Like you understand your own behavioral patterns, your own shadows. You start, coming in touch and harnessing your own sexual energy and just accepting and loving who you are. Like that in itself is just incredible.
It's massive, man. One thing that I wanted to point out, so it's not just coming from you, and it was really important, I think, for us to have this conversation, is like these experiences have like shaped me and changed me like in the same way. And especially this year, I think that in my personal life or business life, I guess, started, like you, seen a lot of growth and a lot of good things happen. And it may be perceived that, we finally found the secret or, it's just built up. But a lot of it has come from I've changed as a person, and the things that I used to hold on to are like no longer there, or I'm aware of it, or I have a self-awareness, or the way that I treat people is different, or the way that I see the world, the way that I see money. It's all very, very much different.
Yeah.
And when you have that self-awareness, it gives you like that sense of confidence within yourself, or it changes the way you treat people. But I think almost more importantly, when you have those baggages that hold you down, those ones that are like just so deep within your subconscious that you just day to day, you don't know it's there, but that's what's creating how you behave. When they go, that just frees you up to be who you are. Yeah. And that's been probably the biggest change in me, which people are seeing the fruits of now.
Yeah. Man, that's huge, hey, because there's like, because you can have so much like baggage that you don't actually know is there until it's gone.
Yeah.
And like a big thing for me when I started working with Cambo was like I was releasing fears and blockages that I didn't even realize that was there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And like, you can come into like working with any psychedelic with like in like set and setting is so important with it.
Yeah.
Like don't just go and take something while you're at a party. Like, be intentional with it.
I advise against it.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, like, when we say ceremony, like, coming into a ceremony is having intention and it's having respect and reverence for what you're about to do. And that relationship within itself is, one, you're communing with the spirit of what you're about to take to say, hey, I'm here, ready to work in union with you. But two, you're also telling your own psyche that you're about to step into an altered state and to be prepared to have this shift that's about to occur. And in that ceremony setting, it's what we call like a sacred space. And that just means that the space is like deeply held, like you're being held in the arms of the cosmos or whoever is within that. And it's so important to be in that place when we're working with these, because it's one thing taking a psychedelic, but we suppress things into our subconscious and unconscious for a reason, right? We've tried to protect ourselves. So if we let all of that out all at once, you can put yourself into a healing crisis, for one. And two, you want to be in a safe space so that if you do have a deep emotional release, you feel held.
Yeah.
Because so many of us don't feel safe to be emotional, because one, we're probably told not to, especially for men, told not to cry. Boys don't cry, so you don't want to be emotional in a space already. So you want to feel safe. Yeah. So the safer that we can feel, the safer that our nervous system can feel, the deeper the work can be.
Yeah.
And psychedelics aren't going to be for everyone, but if it I feel that they call you when it's time. And if you're trying to work with psychedelics, or it's mushrooms or peyote or San Pedro or ayahuasca or anything, and it's not working, then I don't think it's time. Generally it's you'll definitely have resistance come up, and things might come out of place. But if there's a lot of force to make it happen, then it's probably not the right time.
Yeah, I think that's solid advice. Definitely be responsible, be legal, speak to the right people.
Yeah, 100%. If you want to do, go to the jungle and have the jungle experience. Yeah, and receive that.
It's life-changing.
Receive that medicine.
All right, Tim, tell us, what do you have going on? If people want to go through your shamanic breath ceremonies, your cacao ceremonies, what's the best way for them to start their journey?
So hit me up on Instagram. I'm the most active, so just Tim Morrison 2 underscores. My website is www.tim-morrison.com. And Facebook, so again, it's Tim Morrison. So coming up, we have our Soulful Light ceremony, which is our unique blend of ceremonial cacao breathwork and sacred sounds, which is on August 4th at Northside Hub. For the men, we have a 7-day immersion in Bali, North Bali, called the Brave.
Wicked.
Which is an initiation into our primal and deeper masculine essence, and to reclaim our power. We're doing some deep breathwork journeys in there to help release those suppressed emotions, going into shadows, going into our primal energy, our sexual energy, core wounds, inner child healing, father, mother healing. It's going to be amazing. We've got a good group of support team that's going to be there as well. So if anyone is wanting information on that, that's on my website. That's August 25th to 31st. It's going to be absolutely incredible. It's going to be a game changer for any man that wants to just level up or dive deep into himself, and be held by brothers. There's something that's for men to be witnessed, to be challenged by other men in a space. A lot of deep healing can be taken in that place, and I feel that is just going to be changing our community, changing the world, and on so many levels, as we're working through our own wounding, the masculine wounding, dealing with the label toxic masculinity, and how all of that kind of plays out, and taking responsibility for ourselves and the actions of our other brothers, as we are all one and all part of the same collective conscious unit, and how we can, work through that. We are, monthly. The cacao ceremonies are monthly at Northside Hub, and I feel like I've got some other stuff, man, but just hit me up on Insta.
You'll see it on the gram. Tim Morrison's gram. We're going to put those links in the show notes. I've done his ceremonies. I can say they're awesome. He's a beautiful musician. It's great. I'd highly recommend, if you haven't done it, go check it out. Tim, thanks for the chat, bro.
Thank you, brother.
That was epic, hey? Thanks for sharing, man.
Thank you, man.
That's a wrap for episode 41 of the Perth Fitfam podcast. If you're interested in some of the things you've heard, then make sure to connect with Tim on Instagram. That's at Tim Morrison to find out more about plant medicines and his cacao ceremonies that regularly run here in Perth. But if you did like the podcast and what you heard, then I'd love it if you jumped onto iTunes and gave us a 5-star review. I love to hear feedback from you guys. And I also love it when you guys share screenshots of the posts on your Instagram stories. So make sure to do that. We'll make sure to reshare your posts. Thanks for tuning in. And as always, stay tuned for more of the Perth Fitness scene to come.